Barbers, stylists, let's not keep trying to guilt our clients out of maintaining their hair at home right now. I mean, under normal circumstances, one of the worst things they can do is try to cut their own hair or color their own hair. But right now, under these weird circumstances, the best thing they can do is try to cut and color their own hair. What are you worried that they're going to trim their own hair and do it so good that they never come back to you? Are you worried they're going to put box color on their hair and it's going to be so good that they're just never going to come see you again? Are you that insecure with your skills, with your abilities, with your service? Are you worried that they're going to cut or color their own hair in such a way that they ruin it to a point that you can't fix it later when they come back? Right now, our clients want to feel good. We all want to feel good. We're stuck at home and clients want to get their hair cut. And any clients watching this, barbers, stylists, we want to do your hair, but we have like 3 or 4 levels of government threatening to shut us down if the virus doesn't kill us. If we were to go in and do hair, there's like, we just can't do it right now. And so for the time being, the best thing you can do maybe is trim up your own hair and take care of your own hair a little bit. And so the way that I see it is I could be a part of this group trying to shame people for trying to take care of their own hair at home. And normally I am a part of that group. I'm like, come on, man, you could get it so much better in a salon. But right now, you can't. Right now, the best you can do is whatever you can do to make yourself look and feel better. So in this video, I just want to talk about some ways that we can do that to help you maintain your hair in the meantime until you can get back into a salon or barbershop. So it should go without saying, when you do any of these things, it will not be as good as if you walk into a salon and have a professional do it. But if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And so you could either do it with no guidance and really mess things up, or you can take a little bit of advice here and get a little bit better results and not come back to the salon later with a butchered haircut. Now, as far as color goes, I don't do any hair color. I don't have any opinion on whether or not you should be coloring your own hair. Talk to your colorist about that. I don't know anything about hair color. But as far as cutting goes, here's my 2 cents. So the first thing we're going to do is kind of assess your situation and really get a grasp of what it means to need a haircut. So the obvious answer is, hey, my hair's too long, I need a haircut. But let's really break down what that causes. When your hair becomes too long, it no longer does what you want it to do. So hair that you intended to have shaved off perfectly clean is going to become stubble. Hair that you intended to have as some neat clean stubble is going to grow out and stick out a little bit. Hair that you wanted to kind of stick out in the first place, but kind of stick out to a neat clean shape, that's going to get long enough that it's going to start bending and moving. And then hair that you wanted to kind of bend and move and stick out is going to get so long that it's just going to lay flat. And so yes, the obvious answer is, okay, my hair's too long, I need it shorter. But more specifically, break down what each hair is doing and work with that. So the first line of defense here is like if you have a hair that you intended to have kind of sticking out, like when you get your normal haircuts, it just sticks out a little bit, but it looks good sticking out. And now it's so long that it's not really sticking out nicely, it's sticking way out, or it's like, it's just not doing what you want it to do. You might consider trying to find out if that might look good laying down maybe forward, try to lay it down back. And so essentially your hair is graduated to the next step and it no longer looks good sticking out, but that doesn't mean that it can't look good. It might mean that it's time to lay it down or bend it. So hair that you meant to have kind of spiking up, like my hair sort of spikes up everywhere, if you have maybe like a little ramp in the front of your head and it just sticks up, but like it's too long to do that and you're getting like disproportionate looks out of your hairstyle, maybe it's time to start having that hair that goes up, maybe lean to the side a little bit. And then after, let's hope this doesn't go this long, but if it gets too long and leaning it to the side is still, it's like needs somewhere to go, it's too tall, even leaning to the side, now just push it straight to the side. And if it gets even longer, push it back into the side. And so the first line of defense is just understanding that just because your hair is too long to do what you've always known it to do, doesn't mean that it can't do something. And so it might take a little bit of time in the mirror. I recommend working with clean, wet hair to begin with, to just play with your hair and see where it wants to go. And so something that might have always gone this way, maybe now that it's a little bit longer, it kind of goes either way. And when it went this way, it kind of stuck out a little bit and you liked it doing that, but now it's just sticking way out. And so see if maybe it'll lay neatly straight back instead of sticking out into the side. So fiddle with your hair and figure out what else it wants to do now that each piece of it might be graduating to the next step and wanting to act and perform and behave differently than it normally does. I have kind of, my mentality toward cowlicks is like, I realize people hate their cowlicks, but the reason they hate their cowlicks is not that it actually looks bad. I mean, they think it looks bad, but it's based on this bigger, greater feeling that it's a piece of their hair they can't control. And so something I do with clients regularly is I'll Google Brad Pitt, and you cannot find a picture of that guy where he doesn't have cowlicks sticking out everywhere. And so the point being that like distaste we have for these quirks and character in our hair isn't necessarily because they look bad, because I mean, it's good enough for Brad Pitt. It's that we can't control them. And so as your hair is moving on to this longer state and doing different things that it doesn't normally do, you're gonna have to realize, hang on, the control that I normally have to make my hair do this every day, I don't have that control to do this anymore, but I do have the control to do this instead. So now is time to maybe try a different hairstyle. Something, if you're used to having your hair kind of messy, sort of like my hair always is, and you like pieces kind of piecing apart and sticking out, but it's getting too long to do that, try something neat. Longer hair generally lends really well to just neat, clean, more or less like wet styles. Try some of that, see if that works. So styling clearly can't solve everything. You're gonna have issues that come up, particularly in the areas where the hair is meant to be very short, sideburns, neck. And in those areas, you might have to trim some hair. And so I wanna give you some tips to do that so that you don't butcher your hair. And this is simple stuff that you can do at home with like a razor, like a shaving razor, or like even just kitchen scissors. Listen to me, let me be very, very clear here that by putting out this video, I'm by no means trying to say that you should ditch your barber or replace your barber by cutting your hair at home. If you look at any of my work that I've ever done, I am all about like trust your barber, buy your products from your barber, go ask your barber. If you want to learn to style your hair, ask your barber, ask your stylist. And so I know that right now through this whole quarantine situation, there's a lot of barbers who are kind of banding together to do this whole like grow your hair out and look grizzly thing. I think Maddie Conrad's kind of running it, and I didn't think about that when I started doing this video, and I just wanted to make a comment. I get how cool it is that they're saying like, hey, wait for your barber, we'll all look sloppy together and it'll be fun, and making a fun thing out of it, and I get that, and I think it's great. And I'm by no means with this video trying to knock that or go against it or anything, because I know that some people can look grizzly and it will be fun to grow out a beard that you've never grown out before, or let your hair get a little longer than you're used to. But at the same time, other people still have to show up to work and look tidy. And so for the people who can't participate in this fun thing and growing your hair out, that's kind of what I'm putting these tips here for. And by no means do I think you will do this nearly good enough to replace your barber, but you will do it good enough to, you know, keep from scaring the neighbors if they see you. So for the sideburns, typically, if you're going to get these cut in the salon or barbershop, what we do is we elevate the hair and we kind of blend the shape into the beard. It's really hard to sit and elevate your own hair and blend it that way. That requires some level of skill and it's more moving parts than it needs to be. So the simplest way to get your sideburns in check is to take everything and comb it forward and then cut it to a clean straight line at the front of your sideburn. And then take everything and comb it straight back and cut it to a clean straight line at the back of your sideburn. So what this will do is it'll prevent any hairs from being longer than from the middle of your sideburn to either edge. And so it sort of more or less tapers it a little bit, but with this method, it requires very little skill. You're cutting a straight line and a second straight line, and there's very little room to mess up. You're not removing so much hair that you're going to see holes in your sideburn or anything. Like if you were to elevate the hair and try to like blend it out this way, you're probably gonna get steps, you're gonna get holes, and it requires some level of skill to be able to sculpt hair in that way. But pull it straight forward, cut a straight line, pull it straight back, cut a straight line, you're blended, you're good enough. So for the neck hair, this one's pretty hard to do yourself. You're gonna have to like finagle some mirrors and see the back of your head. But the key here is to differentiate the hair that's like on your head, like your normal hair, like the hair that's a part of your style that you wanna keep, from the neck hair that you don't want. And so what you wanna do is comb up the good hair that you wanna keep and then shave the hair underneath it. If you go up too high, when the hair falls back down, you'll have a thin looking spot, but using this method, you're a lot less likely to give yourself a fat bald spot or cut too high up, because you'll still have that longer hair that can kind of hang over it. So go in and take out a little bit, see how the hair lays, and then go in and take out a little more and see how the hair lays. If you were to take your hair and like pull it straight down and just cut it along the line that you want there, you're putting in really hard lines that are very, very easy to mess up. But by holding the hair up and just shaving the hair underneath, you're not putting in any lines. And so you don't want to put lines in anywhere unless you have the skill to make sure those lines are either perfectly placed or blended properly. And if you don't have those skills, just don't put in the lines. So lift up the hair, shave the hair underneath, and let it fall naturally. Now, a lot of times this neck hair that we're shaving off can tend to grow upward or grow into the normal hair. What that'll cause is these hairs growing upward push into the normal hairs that are growing downward, and it makes the hair stick out. And so if you can cut off all those hairs that are growing upward, then all the rest of the hair can lay nicely. So anytime I do a hairstyle where I have hair hanging around the neckline, I always shave up and underneath the hair to make sure everything just lays really nicely. Now, don't cut any of your normal hair because, as I said already, if you're putting lines in it all there, it's really, really hard to get them out. So just leave that natural. Like, it will look better being grown out without the fuzz underneath than it will look being self-cut and choppy and having lines and holes in it. Just don't even try to cut that hair. Let it hang a little bit. It's kind of in style right now to have a little bit of weight in the back of your haircut, but neck fuzz is not in style. So this third part is probably going to be the hardest one to do. If you have to trim up and over your ears at all, like, make sure you don't do this unless it is like an absolute dire emergency. Like, if, I don't even want to say it, if this thing goes on till summer or something. But this one's going to be probably the easiest to botch your haircut. So I recommend don't do this unless it's totally necessary. But if you have to trim up and over the ears, just know that anytime you pull hair downward and cut it, like, it might seem easy, just pull your ear out of the way, comb the hair down, and then cut it. Anytime you're pulling hair down and cutting it, think of it like you're drawing with a fat permanent marker. You put in a line there, that's not coming out. Anytime hair's laying downward and you cut it, you are putting in a hard line. So what you want to do over those ears is get a comb in there and lift the hair straight out off the head, or even up a little bit if you can, and then trim it. And so you won't be able to, it might seem harder to do that because it seems easier to comb the hair straight down and then cut it where you want it cut. But again, if you do that, you are putting in a permanent Sharpie marker line that's going to look bad, and you will not be able to blend it out if you don't have skills. And so if you don't have skills, just lift the hair and then cut it. And what you're doing then is you're sketching softly with a pencil, because you'll find that when you lift the hair and cut it, once it falls very softly and naturally. It won't even look like it was cut, really. And so that's kind of going to be the name of the game with all these tips here is, if you want to maintain your hair without knowing how to cut hair, you don't want it to look like you cut your hair, if that makes sense. You want all these things to look like, oh, I didn't get a haircut, but it just happened to be nice and neatly, contained a little bit anyways. And so do your sideburn thing, do your neck thing. If it's horrible over the ears, lift it off the head and cut it and see how it falls. And lift it off the head and cut it and see how it falls. And do that enough times until it's short enough that it's working for you. But don't be a hero. Don't try to line yourself up. Don't try to give yourself a taper unless if you're really bold and really desperate, give yourself a taper. But just keep in mind, if you follow these tips and tricks here, you're not going to look like you gave yourself a haircut. You're going to look like your hair was just nicely maintained. Another huge tip too is if you have like a quarantine partner, have them watch all these parts with you and then have them do it for you, because this is hard to do, but it's a lot easier for someone else to do it for you. Anyways, I hope we can get through this thing together. If you liked it, subscribe and like and all that, and share this with your friends. Right now, all I can do is YouTube videos. So let's get this out there, please, and thank you.